Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for coming, and I will introduce our organization, Visual Arts Topeka. We work with Sarah and ArtsConnect, and we have been working for a long time, and this was established a long time back. So we do cater to all the art that goes on in Topeka, and people come here, and we have a lot of members. So thank you for coming. Let me just introduce what we do. We are opening a website, plus we are also working on something called Art Card, where we recycle art material free of cost to anybody who wants to take for students and anybody who's needing art material. So we do a lot of work, and one of the things that we just do constantly with ArtsConnect, and with monthly, every third Friday of the month, we have a discussion. You can bring your own work. We have a special speaker, and today's special speaker is going to be introduced by Sarah. And thank you for coming. If you have any questions, I've given you the card. You can be a member on the Facebook. If you're part of the Facebook, you can be a member free of cost. You can bring your artwork if you're an artist. If you like art, you can come and join us and we discuss. And with that, I would like to introduce Kathy and Pradeep, who are our core members, and Gwen is also our member. So they are part of our core team, and Barbara is not here. Barbara Water-Peters, and if you are from Topeka, you will know her very well. And with that, thank you. Sarah, if you want to continue.
Thanks, Aziz. Hi to all of you. It's good to see all of your faces here on this hot Friday night. And hi to everybody who's at home watching. If you are on YouTube, hi to all of you also. Tonight we're doing a lot of things. And one of them is getting to hear from Michael Toombs, who I feel like I don't get to hear from very often. Michael Toombs spends a lot of time helping other people do all kinds of things and teach them new skills, both in art and life. And it's a really rare opportunity and treat to get to hear from him about his own artistic practice. So, but also part of why Michael is here is because he has had a long history of telling the story of Brown through art. And so I wanted to invite Miss Marty Patterson up to say a couple of words. Miss Marty Patterson is I don't even know how to, she's a historian, she is an amazing woman and friend who does all the things to help make sure that important stories are told in our community. And so she has something she wants to do. Here you go, Marty.
Thank you for coming. We wanted to thank these couple of people, and we have some more people to thank, for the story that has been told for many years, for 70 years now. But we have not seen anything of it. If you go into the National Historical Site on Monroe, you will not see one picture of one Topekan in there, which is sort of sad. What we have been trying to do is get people to want to show the students of that time. There were 13 plaintiffs, but there were 725 African American students that were being fought for at the Supreme Court level. So sometimes they just have a couple of names thrown out, and some people don't know the story of Topeka and how great it was that made the case for Thurgood Marshall, because we were a unique town. That's a whole other story. I won't take up the time with that. It's taken me 9 years to find out. But I wanted to be able to thank these beautiful people for what they did. Michael, I recently met. Sarah 2 years ago, because this is what's so important. People want to celebrate the ground, and which is good. They want to remember it and celebrate it. But they never ask the students, what do they want to do? How do you want to young? For the first time, Sarah asked them to the table. Sometimes people don't do that. They don't ask the people that are really being involved in it, come to the table. Tell us what it is that's important to you. Sarah did it 2 years ago, and And that started a road where we wanted to be able to, not we, but we have a student here, Carolyn, where they were able to tell her, choose moments, choose artists that they felt were represented them. They have not been asked to the table in 70 years, so it was important. And so we had a gift for Sarah, and I have to ask her to please. This is Kathy. Please leave it on the table as you unwrap it. And we tried to find something that was artistic, because that's where she comes from, that's her flow. Be careful, that you won't get another one. Okay.
Only one to a person.
Thank you. And grateful appreciation to Sarah Fazell and the ArtsConnect staff from Bradley Board, Sumner Legacy Trust. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. I can come over again. Because it's artistic. They had a button for the 70th that he designed. And he donated his design to the celebration we had in May. So we really wanted to thank him, because you know, we hadn't had an artist do that yet. We wanted to donate their design. So we were so grateful.
Oh, wow.
Would you read it, please?
In grateful appreciation to Michael Toombs, and then from, and then has
The Brown V Board.
Brown V Board,
Some of them.
SLT.
And we're a board that we started in, well, they started before me. They called me on board in 2016, 2017, because I was into this case and wanted somebody to give these people recognition. Carolyn, would you come up and say some words? So this is one of the students that went to McKinley. Let me shut up, because she can very well speak to herself. Very, and she's in the picture that Michael had done. And if Bridget could take a picture of us with their awards.
Okay.
Carolyn, can stand in the middle. Say if you can get your award.
So we're going to take a picture first.
Yes. Because I can sit down there.
You ready for this? Y'all look beautiful.
Okay, make sure you show the front of it that shows the writing. We went to a lot of trouble to get that wording.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm getting that. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thank you so
Look,
much.
you look my way.
Oh, wait a minute, one more.
One more.
Good?
Yep.
All right.
Introducing Carolyn Campbell Williams of McKinley Elementary in North Topeka.
First of all, I grew up, I love North Topeka. I'm so thankful to Sarah and ArtsConnect for revitalizing, because I can tell you what Elkins Pharmacy, all the stores that were here in these 2 blocks. But first, most importantly, I always tell people I am a proud product of segregation. I am thankful. McKinley Elementary was up in the 900 block of Western. The building is still there. If I dwell on it, I get upset about Topeka Public Schools, because they sold it to someone that just destroyed it.
Oh.
Rather than, now when they sell a building, they make sure that it's going to be something positive, like Avondale East is now sent to make it a lot for the community. But I have to go back and tell you that I am so thankful that the Lord, once I told my mama, and I was about 12, I told her, I'm so glad I'm black. And she chuckled and she said, I don't think you had anything to do with it. I remember that because I thought that's how naive a child can be. But that tells you how proud I have always been to be black. And that I say a lot of that comes from my teachers at McKinley Elementary. I am thankful that I was brought up with, from kindergarten to 6th grade, all black teachers. my students, we're a family. And next week, there's a picnic that's going to be out at Garfield, and it's really how we've connected and we've stayed connected all these years that we're family. But then all the students that I were, of course, Black. And so I'm thankful for that because we were instructed that we could succeed and be whatever we wanted to be. And A for effort. They said it, but I never E for effort. And everything, the penmanship, everything was supposed to be perfect. And if you really wanted, most of us, that's the way things were. That we loved our teachers. I was fortunate that my kindergarten, first grade teacher was my next door neighbor. So, of course, we were like family and Christmas and all this. And I remember Mama had to tell me at dinner one night that I had to stop calling her Jerry. That when I went to school, she was Miss Harmon. But I don't know how long, I can go on forever talking about all of it. And I don't think you want to hear all of it.
Carol, can you tell them your position?
Okay, and again, here is our teachers encouraging and educating, making sure we were, okay, I want to say this. When we went to Curtis Junior High, the Kansas state law was, because of the population, that's when junior highs were integrated. And when we went to Curtis Junior High, they said, these are from kids are from McKinley. They got their basics. We don't have to worry about them. They know everything. It was the other kids that were well prepared. So I love teachers, and I respect educators, and so in 1995, they kept on and on me to run for the school board. And I kept saying no because I had a mother and grandmother I was taking care of as well as a daughter. But that year I said, okay, if you can't find anyone, and I must tell you, if anyone knew Mr. Onan Burnett, he came to my office. I was working at the time, and the deadline was noon on whatever Tuesday that was. And so at 1:45 noon, he came and got me, took me to the election board and paid the $5. So I was elected. I served 12 years on Topeka Public Schools Board of Education. And I'm so proud of myself because my heart is one. And I'm a member of historic St. Mark's African Methodist Episcopal Church, which is right up here on Norris, and the home of Reverend Oliver and Linda Brown. But they, forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so then I was elected 8 years to the Public Schools Board, and 12 years I'm the first Black to serve on Kansas State Board of Education.
She is in a picture that Michael Toombs painted of the members who came to the meeting. For the first time they were at the table. There's another member that came, Miss Cindy White. The reason we have this design that he did for the button is because of Miss Cindy White. And I wanted her to at least say maybe why she chose Michael Toombs to do this. One moment. Miss Cindy White. He's also president of Martin Luther King and
I'm not the president. I'm just the chairperson of the Imagery Business Partners, but on the board for the Martin Luther King Board of Directors. But good evening, everyone. Michael and I think we crossed paths, it's been over 10 years ago. He spoke at one of our Live the Dream. We had a luncheon for all of the corporate sponsors at the Ramadi Inn. And he did a presentation on his journey with his art. And so we were so impressed with his speaking and his artistic skills that we invited him to be a part of our Living the Dream art competition. And so he and Sarah had collaborated with Living the Dream business partners. And so he was able to provide the youth with $2,000 type of award for the kids in the art competition. They get to receive a gift card. And so that's how our friendship began. And then when we crossed paths again, I think around March or April, he came to a meeting. I was just so impressed with his artistic skills that I just thought that it would be nice for him to design the actual logo for the 7th anniversary grounding board in the Supreme Court cases. So that's how we collaborated on that particular endeavor. And we've been collaborating ever since. All right.
So without further ado, I will let Michael have this microphone. Thank you all for being here, for sharing, for continuing to be willing to share your perspective and your stories with the rest of us. So it's really important. We are here partially because of a grant that came to us from the Mid-America Arts Alliance. So props to our friends at the Mid-America Arts Alliance who gave us the grant that funded the creation of these two works that we're talking about this evening. And I will not butcher Michael's bio by trying to say it out loud, because I think he's also going to talk about that. So, to Michael Toombs, the microphone.
Well, good evening, everybody. And thank you so much for coming out and supporting this initiative. Thank you to the members of the Student Legacy Group who have worked so hard to preserve the memory of the contributions and sacrifices made by those before you and during your time. The painting, believe it or not, Sarah asked me if this would be something I'd be interested in doing, and I told her I would absolutely be happy to do this piece. And as I was getting into it and I was laying out all the storyline for the two panels, as I got close to the end, she said, "Oh yeah, and by the way, would you think it would be kind of good to put some of the students that were, affected by this thing at the time into the mural?" And so I thought about it and I said, wow, that's a lot of people. And I looked at the picture we took the day that I was invited to come and sit in, and I said, well, this is a perfect picture to do, to add them into the painting. And so ultimately, Sarah, as always, you had your hand in making sure that something got preserved that would have been overlooked again. And so give her a hand, everybody, for that. As this was coming together, Sarah had mentioned that she wrote something out, and she's been kind of developing a concept on how to continue getting this information out to the community here in Topeka. And some of the things that you wrote down, Sarah, and I looked them over last night and again this morning, made perfectly good sense. And I wanted to kind of ask my associate, Kathy Burchett, if she'd come up, because she helps me in situations like this. I'm going to have her read this for you. For me, it always goes deeper when I hear somebody reading it to me. I just hope nobody takes it and wants to burn it or anything, because I might learn something from it. That was a low-level joke. Very low. So Kathy's going to read this for us, and think about it, and if you have any questions about it later, let's talk about it a little bit. But I think this is probably more beneficial to artists in the room. And before I jump in, some of the members of my art group are here, drove all the way up from Kansas City. I want to ask you to stand up and be acknowledged. Anybody that's actually picked up a brush and worked on one of our projects, just stand up. Okay, art the actors back there is always kind of in the background, taking video photographs. Okay, so thank you, Kate.
I think I can handle it.
All right.
And he didn't mention this, but we met 30 years ago in a dumpster outside a theater. I was there to make sure the dumpster got packed really well. He was there to see if there was anything cool coming out of the dumpster that might end up on, I don't know, a jacket, perhaps.
You never know.
You never know. And that was 30 years ago, and we have been collaborating ever since. Best thing I ever got out of a dumpster was this guy. All right, telling your story through art. The stories that you tell through your artwork can offer context and opportunities for interpretation that are not possible in more traditional storytelling formats. ArtsConnect has created this resource for artists to help you consider how artistic talents can be used to tell stories in ways that are both deeply personal and offer a universal connection to the lives and histories of others. Artists, we are the lead storytellers. As an artist, you know that art in all disciplines offers a universal language for understanding complex narratives. You can not only tell your own story, but also incorporate your life experiences into works of art that create common understanding and offer opportunities for important and sometimes difficult conversations. So we got to consider memory in all of this. History can be complex and have multiple perspectives, as clearly this art behind me does. Making these narratives the perfect opportunity for artists to build a visual narrative that is both personal and universal. How one person remembers a moment can be different from how another person views that same moment. Various events in each of our lives can be incorporated into a broader understanding about our community. Your stories are unique, but most life experiences have common themes. This means that your unique story can be valuable to how other people can understand their own stories. In fact, I just had a meeting with another artist talking about this very thing at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So everything in the right time. Your stories, when we take the time to tell our stories, we encourage others to investigate their own stories. And when a community has a culture of storytelling, our stories become the threads that weave together to build a deeper understanding of our communities, our culture, and our legacies. Your stories matter. As an artist, you are uniquely suited to bringing your stories to life in a way that shows new perspective and adds value, not only to your own work, but the collective memory of your community.
Thank you, Kat. There's a little more on the back here. Take some time. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it.
All right.
The reason why we're doing this is because I feel like, people show up after the work is done, and sometimes they show up while the work is being done. There's so much more that goes into these processes than what you see finally. And so what we're trying to do is encourage the creatives to continue the work, but also to expand the work so that they can become contributors to the evolution of a community that is in need of inspiration.
Yeah, and that is what we did on the Brown versus Boyd mural. We took the children's artwork and told their stories. And in many cases, you may not know this, but the children themselves came and painted with the artists. And the one that Michael was working with, her piece, the first thing she told him was, that shade of red was wrong for that hair. And she remixed it. But yes. So that was her story, and that red hair was going to be correct. She was not going to rest unless it was. So in this case, finding the story, Think about an event that somehow shaped your life, or a part of history that interests you. These stories can be big or small, private or public, happy or sad. It can be an event that you experienced firsthand, or it could be a story that has existed in your family history. The prompts below will ask you to consider your relationship to it. So when considering narrative prompts and visual cues, ask yourself, when does the story take place? What are some historical events surrounding it? What happened prior to the story that offers context, if necessary? What do you think is the most important part of the story for viewers to understand? Imagine the story. What is the setting? What is the time of day? Are there any symbols or objects that should be represented? How can you demonstrate the period, time, and location through clothing, objects, or other visual cues? What is the mood of the story? How is it communicated? So now let's look at the science of memory. Scientists spend a lot of time studying memory and how memories are managed by our brains. But as an artist, your interpretation can bring those memories back to life. Consider the following scientific principles of memory and think about how you can use these terms to enhance your storytelling. Let's think about visual quality. Memories fade in quality over time, much like photographs. Recall the changes. Each time a memory is recalled, the brain networks change, which can alter the memory's recall in the future. They've found this, particularly when they ask people to identify people in a lineup.
Yeah.
Their memory changes based on who's standing up there. And that's been a really bad thing for a lot of people. Okay, back to this. Editing. The brain constantly edits memories, updating them with new information. The incubation effect. Memories can undergo significant changes over time, even without explicit retrieval. This process is known as the incubation effect. And then reconsolidation. Multiple reactivations of a memory can lead to significant enhancement and recollection of other related materials. And I've worked on projects where we did all these things with him over the last 30 years, so we've done that.
Thanks, Kat.
Am I done now?
Yep. All right. I mean, that was some meaty information, I think. It kind of gives you a little bit of insight as to how we approach projects on this scale. Same as with the one over on 15th Street. You have to have a beginning point, you have to have a middle point, you have to have an end. But in order to tell a story that educates and open people's minds and imagination to the things that took place at a given point, you have to be able to have that thread follow all the way through. I spent some time, because this subject of Brown really resonates with me ever since I was asked by Sarah Fazell back in I don't know if it was 2018 or prior to that, because I know 2018 is when we finished, so I would say probably more like about 2015 or 16, when Sarah reached out and asked if I'd be interested in working with her to facilitate the mural over on 15th and Monroe. And then shortly after that, we got that done. A lot of work went into that, a lot of people. We had over 2,000 people had a brush in their hand, and you're going to see these slides kind of clip it, because these are slides of our collective past projects that we've done. And so I've tried to internalize all of the information that I've been given on these Brown projects. The first one being with the young people when we were asked to do that piece over on 15th Street. One of the stipulations from the owner was that he would be willing to allow us to do a mural on the side of the building so long as it was done by the children in the community. And he got my promise at that point that I would see to it that it happened that way. And so we then reached out to Cindy and talked to her about the Living the Dream project. And they already had a group of young people who were thinking in those veins anyway. And so they had a contest that was already in motion, and we were asked to come in and speak to some of the young people about the project and to get them tuned into the case of Brown. And they submitted their work, and we had two full committees who evaluated the work and made a decision as to what would go into the mural. That project gave us an opportunity to work with some of the local artists in the community and ask them if they would be willing to interpret the young people's work, to paint it as an experienced artist, but interpret the work that they were being given by the young people. So they had to paint their work with a little bit of their style and flair. And they agreed. And so that project took us about 3.5 months. And then shortly after that, I get reached out to by Washburn. And Washburn was asking, okay, we are going to put a mural in our new law school, and wondered if you'd be interested in working with us to do a mural project on that. And I agreed. And so each of these projects required a certain amount of research in order to determine what was going to tell the best story. Even with the young people's work, because we had to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Same as with Washburn's mural. And then, lo and behold, before it's all said and done, I get asked if I'd be interested in doing a project that was kind of close to my heart, which we call Brown Line. Now, the young people's mural was all about the young people's perspective as it pertained to Brown. How they saw Brown, how they felt it affected their lives and their families' lives. What did they think best symbolized the things that they were experiencing? And then Washburn's mural was all about the legal aspect, the educational component that took place since the beginning of Washburn School, which used to be Lincoln College, which at one point was called the School on the Plains. And so they wanted to do something that was going to commemorate all of the people who went to school at Washburn and then later began to contribute to what became the Brown v. Board case. And then all of a sudden I get another call from the same person. And this was kind of cool because I had shared with her that I had an interest in doing a piece called The Brown Line, mainly because I felt like the two previous projects, as meaty as they were, didn't give me a real opportunity to deal with some of the issues or some of the unspoken issues about the Brown case that I felt like needed to be shared. And so that's how we ended up with showing the slave ship and the young woman being branded, the war, the Civil War, the Ku Klux Klan, our man John Brown, Lincoln and Grant, Jackson, and the NAACP formulation, all of the cases that led up to an envoy who came to Boston looking for some support to start a school on the plains to educate once slaves and women. And they found a man named Washburn. And he had lived kind of a difficult life, believe it or not. He was 9 years old when his mother had to send him off to become an apprentice at a metal factory because his dad died and his mother was stuck with trying to raise two sons. One of them had some physical disabilities. And so Ichabod was sent off to work at a metal foundry. And at that foundry, he learned some things about working with metal. He eventually created something that was going to be used for barbed wire, and also the rings in the women's dresses that they used to wear in their petticoats. And made a small fortune. and his company became U.S. Steel. But that envoy had left from Topeka and went to Boston and tried to find one gentleman, found these two women who had some money, who were able to help him out a little bit to buy a little parcel of land in Topeka. Didn't have enough to give them the money they needed to start the school, to build the school. So they referred him to another gentleman who was not there when they wandered off to find him, and they ran into Ichabod, who used to be a deacon at a church. And he believed that it was difficult for people of color to make it into heaven if they didn't understand what was required of them by God. And so he felt like the idea of building a school on the plains that was going to be educating white slaves and women was a wonderful idea, and he wanted to help them, so he gave them $25,000. They went back and they built the school. Elijah Scott was one of the first African Americans who received his degree from that school. And then Elijah had two sons who also worked on the Brown case. So when Thurgood Marshall got the case and ended up working with two of the boys from Elijah's family, I think that's kind of an interesting thread, you know, going all the way back to the Civil War and John Brown and Harriet Tubman. Yeah. Coming all the way forward and eventually ending up with some of these people here who we've met a few of tonight, who basically once the case was decided and they had to follow through with the integration process, were the first to go into those schools where they were not welcome, not open-armed. And so this was an attempt to tell some of the story that had not been told in previous situations. But I was telling Sarah that there's more to this story that I feel like needs to be heard in this country, especially now with the things that we're going through. And I was trying to figure a way to articulate that. And so I don't do a very good job of reading in front of people, but I'm going to try, okay? Because I wrote this down. It was the best attempt I could make to putting my thoughts in a form that might make some sense, but it's something that I want to work towards. So first of all, I want to ask everybody in the room if you'll just kind of look around and catch the eyes of somebody who's not sitting right beside you and just say, well, just find one person, look at that person and say, well. Years ago, this gathering wouldn't have been possible. That brings me to why we're here today. I received 3 opportunities to interpret Brown: the Legacy Vision mural, non-numerous solemn at Washburn University, and Brown. In order to come into this community and do such works, I had to spend some time getting to know the people, the places, and the stories. Something that became abundantly clear to me is that there is something within the DNA of this community that is yet to be identified and or discussed. I'm not saying that the same attributes don't exist in many other cities and states across the country, but what I am saying is that throughout history, despite the existence of racism and hatred and self-indulgence that exist in many of the communities, this one seems to have managed to bring throughout history and harness an abundance of the spirit of compassion and courage and community activism. Why is this so important? Why are we here together, able to share each other's company in this way? can be directly attributed to the accomplishments and sacrifices of the people of this city and the state throughout history. I feel that it is a story that can best be told by your creatives. So the people who are created in this community are the ones who I think are going to be able to tell this story best, who resonate with the DNA of those before them, and they would be best suited to creatively articulating the essence of what created the circumstances that allowed the integration to come to be. I believe this is the bedrock of what is now called democracy. And in order for democracy, in order to stop that from happening, what they'll have to do is they'll have to upend democracy. They must first delegitimize integration. Does that make sense? So in other words, the bedrock of our democracy is our compassion and all the things that led to making it possible to have a Brown v. Board. And in order for that to go away, they have to upend that concept. It's rooted in the culture of most democracies around the world and was nurtured in the fertile earth of Kansas culture throughout history. Your artist would be the perfect conduit to identify those interactions with the citizenry, the stories, and the elements which have contributed to this ongoing revelation. So basically, what I'm saying there is that there's something that's in the core of this community that has evolved over many years and has manifested in individuals who worked on a case, who went into schools where they weren't wanted, and ultimately created the conditions that made this room that we're all sitting in today possible. And this room that we're all sitting in together today, there's many rooms like this right now all over the world, made possible by integration. And the only way to shut it down is to delegitimize integration. So that's kind of where I wanted to go and end up. And I want to ask you now, while we're at this point, we're at a point where I can ask you if you have any questions. This would be a good thing.
Anybody has any questions? Yes.
If you don't, there's one. Sarah?
What's your favorite part of getting to do this work?
You know, the favorite part, and you've seen the slides kind of going constantly in the background, these slides and projects that we've been involved in. To me, the power in what we do, and I mean, when I say we, I mean my little group of artists, is we work with people. We work with people. We can work with 5 people, we can work with 25 people, we can work with 1,000 people. And when we did Black Lives Matter murals over on the Truce, we worked with 6,000 people. But I think, yeah, during the pandemic. I think the most powerful part of the whole thing that I've gone through in all my life up to this point has just been working with the people, helping them to realize their powers, giving them opportunities to express their thoughts and ideas, especially their compassion and their love for one another. I think that is the gift God gave us.
Anybody else?
Okay, it's really quiet, so I'm kind of hoping that I left you with some bubbling going on. So,
I have a question.
okay.
How do you find the material and the media changed during your work since you started? Do you feel that there are better materials for mural and other kinds of things?
Absolutely. In the early stages of mural painting, there were latex paints that were water-based. They get a lot of deteriorating due to weather conditions, and they kind of turn to dust and blow away, whereas now we have some really high-grade acrylics that once they dry, they do a really good job of staying. Sarah, did you hit the brown mural with some more clear coat? That bad boy is holding up. Every time I pull into Topeka, I go by it just to say hi. And it looks better now than it did when we did it. Everybody was saying, well, will the paint fade or, will it go away? It's still popping. And so that's, we used acrylic paint. We put a graffiti, anti-graffiti coat on it to protect it from people hitting it, so we could power spray it off if we needed to. And we put a clear coat on it. And it's held up now for almost 10 years. And so the acrylic paints that are out there now, they're really good quality product. And the brushes, same thing. The brushes kind of deteriorate, but we got some good quality brushes out there we use too.
I have another question. Did you ever face any trouble or threat while you're working?
Yeah, we did get a few while we were doing the Brown project. We got a few. We thought we were going to get a lot more, but we had a few people pull up and just say really out loud, "Where's all the white people?" and we didn't suggest these images. The kids were suggesting these images, and we didn't want anybody trying to tweak what the kids were doing. And I might add that the breakdown in the young people who participated in the project, was high-end. White kids and black kids were probably a third, if I'm not speaking out of turn here, Cindy. I'm trying to remember back, but I think we had, it's kind of the same reflection of the community here in Topeka. We had the same contributions, and they did an excellent job interpreting what they thought Brown v. Board represented in their lives. And so, yeah, I think all in all, we got very few issues that came up as a result of the implementing of that project. And I think that's exemplary in the fact that you haven't seen anybody do anything or mess with it since. It's been pristine since. And so, yeah, we actually got the same amount of complaints and threats when we did Black Lives Matter.
This isn't entirely a question, but I was just thinking that there's a real beauty to the fact that these pieces are going to make their way to Brown v. Board National Historical Park from here and be installed there permanently. And so it will be this community that was built around this process that led to these beautiful pieces that will be representing students in that space, the Topeka students.
Absolutely.
And that is extremely exciting. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that detail.
Thank you.
And then I do have a question that follows up from that, which is thinking, and we've had some conversations together about this kind of work, and this is kind of on the fly, but if you were to right now sort of take a next step from finishing these pieces and seeing all of us in community together here tonight, do you imagine like a next step?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
would you feel comfortable sharing some of that with us?
Yeah, what I imagine is it actually resonates around what Sarah passed down. It would be to create multiple venues so that the artists in your community could find access points, whether it be song or dance or food or paintings or sculptures. But in each of the platforms, they would have access to being able to curate a show that would require them to include within it the contributions of the entire community as to what they feel best symbolizes and resonates the Brown case. And so, you know, there would be periodic celebration. We might have 12 platforms, and each month you would have one of those platforms come to a head and have a celebration where people would come and taste food of the period, clothing of the period, paintings of the period. But you would have to research, and you would have to find connections within your family tree that go back as far as you can as it pertains to that evolution of that case and its impact on the Topeka community and the world. Yes?
Well, I wanted to mention, you know, I post things periodically on Topeka History Peaks. And one of the things I posted was about Mr. Phelps, who was white, but in the 60s, he fought for discrimination against blacks. And I just wanted to post that there was somebody fighting for us. They just looked at what he was doing now and were very upset. But Jack Alexander was the one that told me that as a lawyer, he was a lawyer out of Mississippi, I might add, that he was very disappointed in seeing how African Americans were discriminated against in the 60s. And he won every case that he did in the 60s for them. The other thing is that what I'm hoping to see that it will evolve into is how the community was involved. Topeka is the unique city that Thurgood Marshall needed. There was an Eisenhower, there was a Judge Warren, there was a Capper, Menninger. All of these people really came involved with Eleanor Roosevelt. Got involved with this Brown case. It was significant, and it was a ripple effect through the world. If you follow cases that use this one case as a base to win, the Montgomery boycott was the next year that won. But you've got Title IX for women because of this case. It wasn't just about us. It was about our community, our country, and our world that this case fought for. And these students stood on the line to do this work for the world.
It's a story. It hasn't been told. It's trying to be told. But it hasn't been told for the rest of the world to truly embrace and understand the power of it. I mean, you know what really shakes me up is that we're the most powerful country in the world ever. What do they think made that happen? It's our diversity. You know, every other country that's tried to get to this point has not been able to get to this point. This country has gotten to this point because of our diversity, because we have so many different things we can. I mean, I love going to a smorgasbord because I like tasting everything. So here's how I'm going to round it out. I have a picture I brought. No one's ever seen it before. Some people have seen little small photographs on their phone. But no one's seen this painting outside my studio since I finished it. It took 3.5 months to do. And so I'm going to ask you to take a look at it. I'm going to have Hector come around here and take some pictures. But I want you to take a look at the picture and just get into it. And then I'm going to ask you some things about what you see in it. I should also point out that I've gone through a very interesting revolutionary process. I should say evolutionary process. In that I did the Brown mural on 15th Street, which required every skill set I knew how to muster to accomplish, which then led into Washburn, which was like 3.5 months, 4 panels, 5 by 5. I can't tell you what that pulled out of me. But born from that experience was a picture called Thoughts and Prayers, which you haven't seen. You may have seen it when it was on display here. Brown line, and this one called The Word. So there's another one I'm thinking of doing that's going to be called Stick People. You know how they always say, I can't even draw stick people? I'll just leave you with that. So this piece is called The Word, and a minute. At first it kind of, somebody told me, they said, it was like a warning. But it also has some optimism in it. And my wife and I wrote a narrative that goes with it. The narrative is pretty detailed because it explains some of the things that are obvious, but then there's some nuanced things that, it tries to explain, but you have to just kind of really take some time and absorb in order to fully get the entire story.
If you want to get up and get, I don't want to interrupt, but if
No.
you want to get up and get closer to it, you are.
Feel free.
I mean, no touching the art, but go on for it. Stay seated.
There's lots of images in there. And after you stared at it a bit, if you want to just kind of tell me the ones that, ask questions about the ones that affect you most, I would be real happy to try and do the best I can to explain what those symbols and images represent. Go ahead.
The first one I really saw was the left of that one in distress.
Here, this one.
That face right
Here.
there. What particular conveying
Well, I try very hard not to come down on the side of any particular faith because I like people to find a point in which they can enter this piece that's not limited to what I believe. But the real reason for that piece there is, here's the best way to say it without taking you too far into it. It's the awareness that a person attains when they realize what they thought to be true wasn't. And it's too late to change. It's like, you know what I'm getting?
Okay, my focus is on this young black child right there.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
All of
Because
this.
all of that, I'm looking and I'm seeing different things, and since our black men are not always respected, murdered by police, whoever, and so my concern, and it always is, and I'm praying for protection for our young black men, and I keep looking at him.
That symbol in that area, including all of those characters in that piece right there, they're all gathered around the gas line. It represents gas line. So the people were being gaslighted into believing one thing, and then they realized that it was something else that's up while they're being gaslighted.
Yeah, I didn't even see the gas. All I'm seeing is my
face.
my child.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
Curious about these children there, obviously. They look like they're having fun, but not this child.
They're actually dancing Ring Around the Rosie with a bomb in the middle.
Oh, that's a bomb.
A bomb, unexploded ordnance in the ground, and they're all dancing, but that shows their unwillingness to experience what they suspect is about to occur. That's women's uterus.
Yes.
That's a woman's uterus being used as a tool or whatever people decide they want to use it.
The one that looks like an angel? The wings?
Archangel.
Anybody else?
Great depiction of the head.
That's the lot in water. That shows the polluting of the waters. And if you look real hard, you can see another thing that's heavy in our culture right now, is UFOs. See a UFO?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Who sees it?
I do.
You see where you see it at?
It's it's right there on the right side of the.
Where is it in conjunction with? Oh, that's the visitor.
This is the,
That's the,
Yeah.
and that tall creature is the visitor. And then we have the watchers. Anybody see the watchers? Here's one here. Here's an eye. Here's one here. Those are the watchers. And then the earth is angry because of misuse. Another part of our culture that we hear talk about all the time is Nostradamus. And what's this represent?
We're running out.
The doomsday clock, which is down to its last minute.
Is that Trump or
Aware? That's him.
Yep.
Putin. Biden. He's leaving. Trump's on the money. He's on the gold. Yep.
What about, is this a
That's a celestial intervention. We've been hearing a lot about that in our news. We don't know how much of it's true or how much of it being gassed in. But, you know, there's always conversations about some sort of a celestial intervention.
anyone else has a question?
So the major face in the middle?
That's the host. I host you to come in and learn from all of these.
Why is he brown eyed?
Actually, this face was made up of 11 different faces. Iconic images over history of the face of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene.
That's what it was at first, representation of Black Jesus. That's that first, when I first seen it. Over
This mouth was the mouth of a Black Jesus. The eye was more of a European. And this one is more of an Arabic. This was Mary Magdalene. So I took many different faces and kind of fused them together to create one face.
Any questions?
The what?
The red, that's hanging off the belt on the top right.
Uterus.
Yep,
The uterus.
that's what.
What's happening down here? There's one.
That's an atomic blast. And this is all of the people being turned into slaves. Not just Black people, all people.
So the guy's holding two water buckets there?
That's a child. Child labor.
Anyone else?
I know I screwed up, but I don't think they know I'm here. I can have you. These two planks, they could be. Maybe not. Okay.
That person
This one,
facing.
Oh, yeah.
the gnashing of teeth.
What?
The gnashing of teeth. That's a biblical term. Gnashing. Yeah, it's kind of like that moment where you've done all the things that you were told to do, and then all of a sudden you realize it was wrong and you did the wrong thing, but the door is already slammed shut. And there's nothing you can do but have all your attitudes and your angers and your frustrations and all that hit you all at once at the same time. That's the national team.
And the gentleman that's in white and gray.
Nostradamus.
Any other questions?
Okay. Oh, Oshara. Oh, this one? This, that's gold coins with Trump's face on
What is it down at the bottom on the trumpet?
it. QAnon. That's the vaccination deal. Not just for COVID, but vaccinations of any kind.
How do you approach something like this? Are you sketching it out? Is it?
Some of you who I've communicated with, I sent multiple evolutionary images to. I know some people were like, oh my God! Because it actually had sort of an animated effect in the beginning. I wasn't quite sure as to the direction of some of the characters and stuff. So I kind of added everything in layers, and each time I added a layer, I saw something else that needed to go there, so then I added another layer. Some of what Sarah was saying about being in tune with your community and being sensitive to the things that people are saying, and all of that is part of the methodology in creating works of this kind. You don't just sit down and say, oh, I'm going to do a painting called The Word. You have to actually sit down and have a starting point, which in this particular case, it was here. It was here. Just the eyes. And then once the eyes got there, then this part came out. And then once that came out, then this came, then it started coming around this way, then it started coming around this way, and it just sort of met at the bottom.
Is that a lunar eclipse above the?
Yep. That's actually a solar eclipse, and it is the sun became this sackcloth.
Any other questions?
What's that above his left eye? They're like blue streaks.
Actually, this was kind of fun because when I first started this, it was supposed to be thorns. But then it kind of grew into something that looked more like ice or something more celestial. So it's kind of a cross between what it would look like in the spiritual realm as well as part of the earthbound effect of being human before transforming to spiritual. Okay, I think I ate up all y'all's time.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for letting me show you the piece.
Thank you for coming.
Take a picture if you want to, and share it with people. Take a picture and share it.
Thank you for coming, and if you have any questions, please do ask. And I would like to thank Sarah again and the visual artist of Topeka to make this successful.